The main RLS that I'll be using for my TOK presentation is a poll conducted by the nonpartisan and nonprofit organization, the Kaiser Family Foundation. So the poll found out that the public's trust in the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and top doctors like Dr. Anthony Fauci is rapidly dropping. It also finds that a sizable percentage of Americans still have several incorrect beliefs about the pandemic, and that less than half of Americans that were surveyed would not want to get the vaccine. The poll provides a striking glimpse into how the United States government chaotic response to the coronavirus pandemic and crisis is sowing distrust among both Republicans and Democrats. Looking at my RLS, I extracted 4 knowledge concepts. The first one was sharing of knowledge, which in this case, polling was used as a tool to show the lack of confidence with the CDC and the COVID vaccine. And this sharing of knowledge from certain people, which was the organization, allows to see the current public opinion on a topic of interest. Then came ethics, which are moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. In the case of people receiving new knowledge, people's principles can change and reason new opinions in regard to forming an ethical decision. The poll found that more and more people are choosing not to collaborate with the medical guidelines, which is evidence of an unethical conduct, especially nowadays we're in a pandemic world. Then I found authority, which was in Donald Trump's remarks versus Dr. Fauci's remarks, where Dr. Fauci does not recommend a treatment that Donald Trump recommends. So who has more power? Who has more outreach? The president or a professional expert in medicine? Finally, falsification and its extent of impact. How can an authority say something false and people still believe it just because he or she is an authority? In a video which I'll present, we can see, which is a White House press conference, we can see how Donald Trump undermines Dr. Anthony Fauci. The journalist leads us to believe that Donald Trump is promoting a non-FDA approved drug. So he's taking the ethical decision to spew misinformation, possibly that can lead to deaths since the drug is not approved.
Why not just let the science speak for itself? Why are you promoting this drug?
I'm not. I'm just
You
saying
come
very
out here-
simply, I'm not at all. I'm not. Look, you know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to
You
save
come out here
lives.
every day, right, sir, talking about the benefits of
I want them to
hydroxychloroquine.
try it, and it may work and it may not work. But if it doesn't work, it's nothing lost by doing it, nothing. We don't have time to go and say, gee, let's take a couple of years and test it out, and let's go and test with the test tubes and the laboratories. We don't have time. I'd love to do that. But we have people dying today. As we speak, there are people dying. We bought massive amounts of it, 29 million doses of it. We have it coming from all of the labs. We're actually now doing it here because in case it does work, we want to have it.
And would you also weigh in on this issue of hydroxychloroquine? What do you think about this, and what is the medical evidence?
That question?
Yeah. Well, I'd love
Maybe
to hear from the
15,
doctor.
15 times. You don't have to ask the question.
He's your medical expert, correct?
He's answered that question 15 times.
Dr. Fauci, why are you not wearing a face mask?
Looking at all the knowledge concepts, I came to this knowledge question. To what extent does shared knowledge impact an individual's response to ethical decisions? The research paper titled Influence of Religious Beliefs on Healthcare Practice by Rumun, created in 2014, shows how religious knowledge systems create shared knowledge that can influence an individual's response to medical decisions. Some patients who are very religious know that the doctor certainly intends to do what is best for them, but the patient does not believe that the doctor knows what's best for him. In this instance, only God does. In the Old Testament, in Leviticus 17:10, it reads, If anyone of the house of Israel or of the aliens who reside among them eats any blood, I will set my face against that person who eats blood, and will cut that person off from the people. Some Jehovah's Witnesses actually can't, by religion, do blood transfusions. So they take that shared knowledge given to them by their religion and take the ethical decision to not take blood that will eventually help them, or at least relieve their pain or illnesses. The paper also describes that there are laws, which are shared knowledge, that doctors have to know and understand when they deal with this type of things. However, some doctors can and do take the ethical decision of going over that law and actually treating their patients. Next is the professional opinion of doctors in the form of medical guidelines, which can be seen on all countries, especially right now in the pandemic. For example, wear a mask, avoid crowds and poorly ventilated spaces, wash your hands, cover coughs and sneezes, clean and disinfect your hands. These are all medical guidelines that are universal, but in this case, these are the ones that the CDC presents for the 2020 and 2021 year of pandemic. These medical guidelines come from an authority figure, which is the CDC, which is the United States government. However, if this shared knowledge is not enforced, people can act faithless towards their government because they lose their faith that their government is looking out for their best interests. So individuals' opinion changes, and they might take an ethically wrong or right decision. Okay, so how do these two expert opinions affect the original RLS? Well, Ramun highlights that shared knowledge such as guidelines and the Hippocratic Oath influence and affect doctors' individual thought process when ethically challenged. For example, guidelines say that the patient is always right and that a doctor can't superimpose himself over them. However, a Hippocratic Oath, which is shared knowledge that is more than 2,000 years old, tells them that they always need to be there for the patient and cure them. Next, the CDC guidelines, which are established by professional doctors, professional scientists, to help ensure that the COVID pandemic doesn't go in crisis mode, right? Is a shared knowledge that is given to the people. However, when the president and the top doctor, for example, contradicting knowledge, that affects the faith of the people, leads to decision making problems, and people stop believing in the government, which the government is tasked in helping its people. The first secondary RLS was of a woman, a patient in the United States, that due to her religious beliefs, couldn't do blood transfusion. Her doctor, according to shared knowledge of medical guidelines and laws, went ahead with her wishes. However, he also applied the Hippocratic Oath and he vowed to find other ways to help her. The second secondary RLS was of a Florida woman who was fired because she made the ethical call not to manipulate COVID-19 data. Since she controls a big amount of data, which is shared knowledge, she made the ethical decision not to manipulate it. So that when people receive that shared knowledge, they would not be made to believe that fake data was implanted on that. So they could make better ethical decisions. In conclusion, shared knowledge is constantly manipulating our moral guidelines. And this is natural because shared knowledge is all around us. However, our faith and reason are affected, which leads to our ethics being challenged. It may affect our ethical decision making negatively, so that in the process we hurt others and we don't cooperate with our society or our community. Or it can affect positively, for example, leading us to help others, cooperate with others, and share right information. What is the significance of this knowledge question and this RLS to our daily lives? Well, understanding how knowledge can be shared to influence people into taking certain choices to reach a desired purpose is very important, as nowadays a lot of companies do this and a lot of leaders do this. Also, mathematics, natural sciences, and religious knowledge systems, knowledge have a very big impact on an individual.